Wolf, get away from those sheep.
Bollocks.
You're listening to the Wolf and the Shepherd podcast, broadcasting from Fort Worth in the great state of Texas. Now, get ready for this episode of the Wolf and the Shepherd.
Welcome to this episode of the Wolf and the Shepherd. Today we're going to be talking about the ideal woman. And there's a few names that are popping into my head right now, but I don't want to make any of them jealous. You know, because of course my wife is the ideal woman, right? And that's what you're supposed to say when you're married, right? But her name didn't pop into my head when I said that. Is that bad?
Not really.
Oh, okay. All right.
Because
just so long as you're going to defend me on that when she gets mad when she doesn't listen to this podcast, because she never listens. So, yeah. But you know, one of her friends are probably going to say, hey, I was listening to this, and apparently you're not the ideal woman for him. Yeah. So I've already it's already going downhill for me already.
Right. Well, I figured given we have about 5 female listeners in total, that includes my girlfriend, a couple of people who have who have been on the show, and one other person who's kind of a relative. So that's that.
Well, and then we still have the nice girl there at the rehab place that my dad is back in. Oh, and that reminds me, hang tight.
You have a name?
I promised her that we would give her a shout out. You know, we did before.
Yeah.
But
she was nameless.
Yeah, and I think she's still nameless, but she gave me this little piece of paper here, and it's on a sticky note that I can't even peel off. But her name is Rissa the Artist, R-I-S-S-A. Rissa the Artist. Rissa or
What do you
Rissa?
mean that's her name? It's not a name, is it?
Well, maybe her name's Rissa, R-I-S-S-A.
Is this for Instagram or what?
No, she's on Etsy.
Oh,
so she has like art that she does on Etsy, so you can find her at Rissa the Artist or Rissa the Artist, R-I-S-S-A. So hopefully you're listening, and hopefully some people will go buy the art. She did show me the art, by the way, on her phone and everything. It was kind of cool, but I'm colorblind, so I don't know if it's really good or not.
Well, I was going to say I'll take a look at it. And if it was terrible, we can just edit this bit out and pretend we never mentioned her.
That's a good point. Yeah, we could do that.
Right. I was thinking about the ideal woman and figured we ought to kind of discuss it a little bit, because it is a topic which, you know, comes up right from a very early age, and you have this, I guess, list of things you want in an ideal woman, and then it changes through each stage in your life.
I just realized we gave that shout out to her, and I hope she doesn't think we think she's the ideal woman.
Well, I haven't seen her artwork yet.
Yeah.
Well, no, she's just one of the few females we know who listen to the show. That's why we mentioned her.
Okay. Yeah. I'm just making sure, because that might come off a little creepy. You know what I mean? Well, it's like, hey, we're going to do one on the ideal woman, and by the way, and then next time I go up to the rehab hospital and I have to see her, she's going to look at me like, you're a little on the creepy side. You know, if you're doing a podcast about the ideal woman and you bring me up. Right. So I just want to make sure we clear that up.
Yeah, there you go. The Wolf and the Shepherd. Over 120,000 downloads. 5 of them are women.
Yes.
So the creepiness mixed with the misogyny might lose us one extra female listener through this, but
sad thing is that's 20%.
That is 20%.
Yeah.
So when I was a kid, like under the age of 10, I thought girls didn't really have much point. To me, they were like small dogs. It's like, what's the point of having a small dog?
What is the point of owning a small dog?
Well, I don't know. I don't want to really go down that. It was just a similar question I asked myself. What is the point of girls?
Yeah. But now I'm wondering why I have a small dog. Because you are kind of right. Okay.
And your daughter.
That's true.
Because women think small dogs are somehow, you know, protective, but still having a real dog.
Right.
It's not really.
No, it's not a real dog.
Batteries in.
Yeah, no, he's not a real dog, and that's what I've always told him. I'm like, you know what? You're not a real dog. Yeah. You're better than a cat, but you're not quite a dog.
Better than most cats.
Better than most cats.
Yeah,
okay,
not all cats. Yeah.
Not all cats. Fair enough. Yeah. I will give you that one. Not all cats, but better than most cats. Not quite a dog.
Yeah, I bet he doesn't look forward to your interactions as much as the ones where he just gets called a good boy. yours
not at
is
all.
a little bit more critical.
Well, yeah,
about
but
things he can't change.
Yeah, but he's never a good boy. That's the
Right.
problem. I mean, he likes to pee on the carpet. He likes to tear stuff up. He's always barking at nothing. I mean, he's not really a good boy,
Well,
and that kind of sucks.
You know my dog, the old one.
Oh, the Vizsla.
Yeah,
we like our Vizslas.
Well, she runs off periodically when the front door's left open, and I say run off. She's like so old now that her idea of running off's like looking over her shoulders about 10 seconds after she's gone out the front door to make sure that you're chasing her.
Right. Doesn't quite make it to the street.
And so my girlfriend lures her back in with treats, and then when she gets her back in the house, she calls her a good girl and pets her, and I'm like, you're just rewarding bad behavior. In no way in this episode is she a good girl. Because she has just run off. She has waited until you've gone and got her a treat, and now she's come back and you've rewarded her bad behavior.
Right.
This is why she runs off at the first.
Yes, exactly. That reminds me of when my dad first saw Time Out, and he, some kid was acting up in a store or whatever, and this guy says, "Okay, little Timmy, you're in Time Out," and my dad said, "I've got to figure out what Time Out is." So he kind of sneaks around and looks, and he said, "Do you know what Time Out is?" I said, "Well, yeah, Dad." And he's like, "No, I don't think you do, because I walked around the corner and the guy was just hugging his kid saying, 'I love you.'" I'm like, "Well, I've never been in Time Out then." So
yeah, you had more of the foot broken off in your ass type approach to Time Out.
No, it was more the belt coming off the pants and getting it swung and saying, "Good luck blocking this."
Yeah, you go sit in the corner there because there's only so much space for you and your enlarged buttocks.
Yeah, there was no way I was going to sit in the corner because I wouldn't be able to sit down.
Right. So before the age of 10, what was your opinion of girls? I mean, you went to a normal school, right? Where there were girls as well.
I remember when I was in kindergarten, I got married.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I did a few times.
Yeah. We had a wedding ceremony and everything. I got married in kindergarten. And basically, like every relationship I had up until high school, I think it was one of those. I got married in kindergarten and then didn't talk to her for 2 weeks, and then found out that I was supposed to marry somebody else, or she was going to marry somebody else.
I don't know why schools, especially elementary schools, don't put in some relationship counseling, because they could edge off a lot of the problems which arise in later life. No, that's really a good point. Early on.
Yeah, they really could. It's kind of like that argument about how, what is it that, they teach you mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, but they don't teach you how to do taxes or stuff like that. Yeah. It's like, when are we going to get to the point to where we kind of reinvigorate some actual life lessons in school?
Well, I mean, yours and I's first relationships are almost identical in terms
That's
of...
true. And that's creepy.
Approach and duration.
It's honestly creepy how close they were. Yeah.
That, we both dated the prettiest girl in school, didn't bother talking to her, and got dumped via a strange method, as in a friend told me, well, she was actually like about 6 yards away, and you got told via the blackboard or whiteboard.
The blackboard.
Blackboard, So
it was old school back then. It was chalkboard, man.
But do you think our approach of complete silence and pretending you don't exist was the downfall of the relationship, or do you think there were other things that possibly tainted the direction it could have gone? Because you could have been married to this girl now.
Yeah, I think the sad part is, I still pretty much act the same way.
Yeah.
I still would rather not talk unless I have to talk and communicate. So I haven't really learned anything since those days.
Well, I remember actually the first online gaming, it used to obviously be a novelty when women would come online, girls would come online and play online games.
Well, no, I think it still is, and so to some extent.
Yeah, and so there's always a mixture of how you approach it. There was one that kind of, oh, it's a girl, you're going to be terrible, you're crap, you suck,
all right,
you've got boobs, that type of stuff. Heavy-handed approach.
Sure.
And the other approach is completely ignoring them. Right, if somebody's got like a girl's name in their username or anything like that you just completely ignore them. So, for instance, if we were playing Rocket League, you don't ever kind of like pass them the ball, you don't ever say nice shot, you don't say anything, you completely ignore them, and so you kind of teach them that they're not wanted by deliberate ignorance. So
Yeah, and then those same people that do that say, "Why can't I find a girlfriend? Why won't girls talk to me? All that
but
stuff."
You don't want to be dating somebody who's playing online games with you.
That's true. Yeah, I mean,
Something
I would.
always a bit suspicious.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to date myself.
Right.
I mean, I totally get that.
Yeah. Although sometimes you are forced to.
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah. So the under 10 age I call the cooties to princess age, because I think you formulate this kind of ideal girl in your mind, and she's kind of like taken out all of the logistics, which you don't really have to worry about when you're a kid, like having money and a place to live and stuff.
Right.
You kind of think, well, okay, yeah, I just want the prettiest girl. I want to be a kind of like princess. And past that, there's not much thought which goes into it, because in the vast majority of cases, there's nothing kind of, sexual involved. There's an attractiveness, because you do find, girls are attractive at that age, but you're not entirely quite sure what it is about them that you find attractive. I think it's more the kind of pleasant face that doesn't scare you off, or they don't yell at you or hit you.
Right, but I think you kind of hinted at something very interesting, which is cooties.
Yeah.
Do cooties still exist?
Yeah.
I mean, I remember pinch, poke, you got your cootie shot, or a poke, pinch, or there was some deal, because remember, a girl touched you and like, ooh, I got cooties and all that. Do cooties still exist, or have we gotten rid of that now?
It's psychosomatic. You can actually come up in stress-related hives from touching members of the opposite sex, or them touching you. I mean, it actually came from a real thing that you were so stressed that you could actually come out in a rash, and that was the mythical cooties.
Oh, so that's my problem now.
Yeah, psychosomatic.
Yeah. Okay.
Disease.
Well, that
cooties,
makes sense.
But it's a real thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Right. The next stage in life, the 11 through 15 stage.
Okay, the first stage was under 10.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're where?
Yeah, 11 through 15.
11 through 15.
So entitled Xbox Before Bitches.
Yeah.
Because you've got to get your priorities straight. Many a man's young life has been ruined far too early, when they could have let it be ruined by women later on in life.
Yeah, but I think I might still be in this stage, and I'm not 11 through 15 because I'd rather play the Xbox.
Well, yeah. But I call that the Renaissance period, the new Renaissance period, when you come back to understand what's important in life.
The what period?
Renaissance.
Renaissance?
Yeah, that's it.
Is that another one of those English things that the English say the French word a different way than the Americans?
Depending which part of England you come from, it's said both ways.
Okay. It's always Renaissance.
Probably the same here as well.
Yeah. Say it again.
Renaissance.
No.
Renaissance.
Renaissance?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, my brother's girlfriend is named Renee, and my brother-in-law's wife is named Renee. So they would probably like the way you say it better, because it adds credence to their name.
Yeah.
Renee is built in, right?
Yeah.
But no, it's Renaissance.
Okay. So Xbox Before Bitches. I think a lot of kids, boys in their early teens, they kind of waste, their possible athletic careers and all types of things, concentrating on women, because they first start noticing women. And at that point, I think it kind of goes downhill for a little bit, because you arrange almost everything based around, where you're going to see girls.
Right.
You kind of deviate from your original path, which was just to have fun. Now you just want to see.
Yeah. I remember it probably along this time frame, maybe a little bit later, so I might be jumping ahead a little bit, but this was kind of that time frame, so to speak, where you said, well, what do you mean you don't want to play games? Or what do you mean you don't want to go to ball practice? Or what do you mean you don't want to, go hang out and ride bicycles or whatever? You really want to go be with a girl? Like, why can't you come over here and let's actually have fun? Like, why would you want to actually go hang out with a girl?
It's something which nobody really warns you is coming. I mean, for all the good advice you get from your parents. Well, I didn't get any good advice from my parents, scratch that, but you did. You got some good advice from your dad. But I don't think they kind of warn you enough that, look, something's going to happen to you. You're not going to be able to control it. And it's probably going to mess your life up at least a few times a year now for the, dead type thing. So let's give you a heads up. But
good point.
Yeah. It kind of moves nicely into the 16 to 18 age, which I call that escalated quickly, because that's where the girls turn into women stage, and it's
that's that tricky
happens before your eyes.
Yeah, that's that tricky phase.
It's like those plants you can buy where you don't need to add much water before they sprout up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, that 16 to 18 phase is that kind of tricky phase, because on the guy side, right, and of course in the U.S., I don't remember, and I've never even asked you this question, but at that 16 to 18 phase, that's when guys are getting driver's license. That's when they're getting cars. They're able to actually go on proper dates, not in that 11 to 15 where it's like, well, I want to go on a date with this girl, so dad, can you take us somewhere in the car, or blah, blah, blah. Now all of a sudden you have a car, maybe you're borrowing it from your parents, but you're driving, right? So you have that private time where you can actually be with a girl without parental supervision, so to speak. So yeah, this is kind of that interesting time right there.
Yeah. Now, to be honest, in England, most of the girls when I was, in high school were like swamp donkeys. So, I wasn't exactly spoilt for choice.
Oh,
but you still always manage to find one or two to fixate on.
Sure.
And make any kind of excuse to force any type of even remotely uncomfortable interaction, and then you've got another 40 or 50 years to replay back that situation in the shower and kind of think how you'd have said things differently had you had the opportunity again now 40 years later.
Yeah, but of course, you got all those raging hormones at that age, and you're confused about everything. I mean, absolutely everything. I mean, you got school pounded down your throat. You've got the girl thing. You've got, why is my voice cracking? Why do I now have hair here where I didn't have hair there before? Why do I have these pimples on my face? Like, what is all this stuff going on? It's a complicated time.
I will say that girls actually ruined what should have been a very, very, and possibly the most enjoyable period of your life there. Because you finally, were a little bit bigger, were given a little bit more responsibility. You started getting a solid group of friends.
Right.
You could do more things, and then all of a sudden, girls appear.
Yeah. Well, I think you have a really good point there about that. You're actually kind of starting to grow into what eventually is going to look like you. You're not so goofy looking, going through the growth spurts and all that. You can kind of see, hey, this is what I'm going to look like basically for the rest of my life. Yeah, I'm going to age a little bit. My hair is going to get a little gray or whatever else, but here's how tall I'm going to be. Here's, my body shape. Here's what my voice is going to sound like, all that good stuff. So once again, another addition to the complication of that period of your life.
Yeah. Amazingly, there's not been a lot of change between, the girls I remember from high school and college as to how they are now. I mean, a lot of them really haven't changed that much. The ones who were pretty then still tend to be, for the most part, pretty, and the ones who you thought, oh, she might end up okay. She's still waiting for that turning out to be okay moment.
I don't know about that. I mean, I've seen some from my high school where I've said, that was one of the pretty girls in high school. That was one of the ones that every guy wanted to date. And I see them and I say, ooh, yeah, took a bad turn there. And then you had kind of that ugly duckling syndrome, right? And there was a handful that I'm like, where did that come from? Like, all of a sudden you graduated high school and now you're very attractive. Like, and I know it's opposite ends of the spectrum, probably less than 5% on both sides, but even the ones in the middle tend to kind of go south.
Yeah. But also here, maybe not so much when you were, in high school, but girls now seem to wear makeup so early and wear, adult clothes so very, very early that, by the time they're 11 or 12, they're pretty much miniature women in terms of, how they dress and, doing the makeup. Whereas, like I said, most of the girls at school when I was in high school were like they've been dragged through a bush backwards. You were lucky if they washed their hair for school that week. I mean, they really didn't put that much effort in.
True. And let's also not forget about the whole like Instagram filters and all that people can put on themselves. I mean, my color blindness, I think, allows me to realize when I see a picture of a woman and I'm like, that looks so fake. I can't imagine what it looks like for a non-colorblind person, because the non-colorblind person must be looking at that saying, wow, you really want me to believe this is what you look like? When I look at it and I say, this looks so fake, I can tell you have put so many filters on yourself, and this is not what you look like.
Something just occurred to me, actually. Okay. A couple of days ago, I sent you a text and said, hey, I've downloaded about 80 3D movies, and you didn't reply. I thought you'd get kind of excited, but then I remembered you're colorblind, and so that whole blue glasses thing didn't work for you, did it?
Well, I mean, I still can watch a movie in 3D, but I don't have a 3D TV.
Well, you don't have to.
Yeah, you do.
No, you don't, dude.
What?
No. Using the VLC software, it's this thing called a malograph or something, and it converts that side-by-side screen into the old-fashioned kind of blue and red thing, and so you put on those glasses and you have a 3D movie.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I thought you'd get a little bit more excited, maybe.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought you had to have the whole 3D TV and then the fancy glasses.
No, not at all. You can download a 3D movie, and the ones for 3D TVs, it's that side-by-side picture thing. The same thing you'd be looking at if you were using like Google Cardboard or Oculus or any of those things, I think. But no, you just run it through VLC. You just go in the settings and you click on this option, this 3D option, and it's a malograph or something like that, and it changes. It puts it into one picture, and every part of the image has got this kind of outline, kind of red, blue image, and you put on the glasses, and it's great 3D. 3D, yeah.
Well, okay, well, that would have been good information.
So you'd have been more excited then. You might have replied.
Yeah, well, maybe you should have added that part to the text message. Yeah, because I'm sure I was dealing with other stuff. I'm like, oh, okay, 3D movies, and that's fantastic, but I don't have a 3D TV, so thanks for that, Wolf, but that doesn't help me.
Yeah, but the funny thing is, I don't have a 3D TV either, so you must have wondered where my displaced sense of optimism and enthusiasm was coming from.
Yeah, but I wasn't sure if your TV was 3D or not, because you got a badass TV.
Yeah.
So I thought maybe you also had a 3D TV, because what is yours, like 80-something?
85.
Yeah, 85-inch TV. I thought maybe it was also a 3D TV.
Yeah. So, women start ruining your life completely in the teens.
True.
Now, you do get a little bit of a let-off once you get to college, because there's this kind of unspoken thing for most people that regardless if you were in a serious relationship in high school, you get to reset a little bit in college and start trying to find yourself.
Well, that is one of the good parts about college, because you can hit that reset button. Yeah. Whoever you are in high school, you can then turn around and say, I'm going to be this new person in college.
Yeah.
And that is 100% true. Yeah. I totally agree with that.
You improved asshole.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. I shall tighten up on the areas of assholeness which escapes me.
Like a snare drum.
1.0.
Exactly.
Yeah. But college does also combine the maximum of temptation with the maximum of opportunity. And so you have to be careful in college, because some girls are a lot friendlier than they were in high school.
Well, yeah, and I think a lot of the girls that were probably and we're going to go with this as a theme, friendlier in high school, maybe they tighten up a little bit in college, and the ones that were a little tighter on the friendlier side in high school loosen up in college.
You're using a lot of euphemisms here. I'm not quite sure we're on the same path.
I'm pretty sure we are.
We are, okay.
Yeah. I think we're both going in the same direction. If there are still any females
listening, you got any daughters or female friends, just make sure they tighten up in college.
Yeah. I think we've now lost 60% of our female listeners.
Right, yeah. Tighten up in college.
By the end of this, it should be 100%.
It should be
80%, because I'm pretty sure, your girlfriend is going to continue to listen to this just to make sure that you're not making fun of her or saying bad stuff about her.
Right.
And then once you do, then we've lost 100% of our female listeners.
Right.
Yeah. Well, we don't want to do that.
No, we don't want to do that. So the age between 25 and 35, I like to call the optimism kind of window, because, you get out of college and you've got your whole life ahead of you. Best days are gone, let's not deny that. Got your whole life ahead of you, and you're thinking, I'm going to find a female who compliments me, and I'm going to settle down and live out the rest of my life in bliss.
Well, that's what we all think, right?
Yeah,
everything's going to be perfect and all that, and then we realize, that ain't going to happen.
Well, the way I look at it, it's almost nothing can dissuade you. Even previous experiences at that age, you think you're going to find the one to settle down with who is going to cure all ailments. I look at it like, say you look out your window first thing in the morning and there's some bird crap on the window. Okay. Now, instead of letting it ruin your day, you remember, I think it's supposed to rain today. That will wash that bird poop off my window. And so even though individually, bird poop on your window and rain, not good things, you somehow manage to make the rain into a positive, that it'll clean off the bird poop. And I think that's how a lot of people go through their 25s to 35s in terms of relationships. They kind of think, it'll be okay because, if we don't have the same interests, it's okay. We'll find something in common. Okay, I don't really find her that attractive, but I'll grow to love her for her. And I know women do the same thing. We all make the same mistakes.
Well, you're also talking about almost toleration.
Right.
At that point, you're like, you're getting into that settle mode. I gotta disagree with you though on the 25 to 35, because at 25 to 35, you shouldn't be settling yet.
Well, that's the thing though. Most people do though, don't they? Because
No, you're right on that. Most people do, but they shouldn't.
Right.
That's my point. They shouldn't be settling there, because if you try to look at it that, here's my mate for the rest of my life, you shouldn't try to settle at that point. You ought to be able to just hitch to that wagon and say, here's my wagon.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people then make that mistake. I had a friend of mine that said, everybody needs their practice marriage. And I said, well, what do you mean? He's like, well, I got married early on because, my girlfriend at the time got pregnant. Then we got married and everything. And then we'd realize, this isn't going to work. So we got a divorce. And so I learned a lot from that. So that was my practice marriage. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I get what you're saying. That makes sense. And so at this time, he's married again to his second wife. So he's got a kid with the first wife. They're divorced. Kids, obviously older than the newer kids. Then the second marriage dissolves. And I'm like, okay, well, so how many practice marriages do you get? You should really only have one, but apparently now you had a second practice marriage. And now that one didn't work. And now he's actually engaged to the third one. He got a phone call from his fiance, now his fiance. Back then it was his girlfriend. And she admitted while we were on this trip that she cheated on him. But now they're engaged. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure I know how this is going to end. And guess what? You're not Elizabeth Taylor. So why are you going through all this?
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
But that's me.
Yeah. I've always thought that, to find somebody who compliments you exactly, you'd get tired of pretty quickly. Because as much as I like myself, I also get fed up with myself.
I feel the same way about myself.
I start arguing with myself if I spend too much time with myself.
And I also realize that I'm very difficult to deal with when I try to deal with myself.
Yeah, I start getting unreasonable. I start eating badly. Then I start arguing with myself, being like,
get a little bit cranky.
You don't need to eat that.
Yeah.
You're just eating it because you're bored.
Right.
Because you're tired. And I'm like, shut up. You're not the boss of me. And then... things get a little bit...
Then you realize you're arguing with yourself, and you're like, how am I going to win this argument?
I'm going to regret later. Then, it's a forced apology to myself later. Always awkward for days after.
Mm-hmm.
So I think...
Then it's worse when you give yourself the silent treatment.
Right, yeah.
And then you don't talk to yourself for like days.
Yeah.
and then you just sit in that, closet of despair.
Yeah. Well, the worst thing actually is when you're pretending not to be in a mood with yourself,
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, because you can't
you
fool
ask
yourself
if you're okay, and you're like, fine.
Yeah.
But you're not fine.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it gets real uncomfortable. Yeah. And then like, hey, do you want a milkshake?
Yeah.
I know I want a milkshake, but you know what? I'm going to
Not
tell
from
you
you.
no.
Not from
I'm going to
you.
tell you no because you know I want a milkshake, but just to spite you, I'm going to say no, I don't want a milkshake.
It's when you start mumbling the word bitch at yourself when you walk out of the room quietly, hoping you won't hear it.
Right. And then the worst part is when you run across a mirror, then you bring the actual, optical part into it, and then you really get angry at yourself, and you just start pointing and all that good stuff.
We'll admit one thing, though.
What's that?
After you've fallen out with yourself, the makeup sex is incredible.
It is.
Yeah.
It can be fantastic. Well, it can be.
I've never
and
felt
it should be.
At one with somebody as much as I have with myself after a long falling out and reconciliation.
That's true.
Yeah.
And then you have that moment afterwards where like, I'm really sorry that we went through this, but I'm glad we're back to this point now. Yeah. And then you say, we're going to be okay.
Yeah. I think there needs to be more input, like you were saying earlier, in school where they don't teach you about doing taxes, about relationships. I think there should be, when you're about 12 or 13, especially as a boy, a class on learning how to love yourself.
Honestly, I don't see anything wrong with that. Yeah. Not at all. I mean, why not?
Right. Yeah.
There's a lot better stuff that we could be teaching our kids right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wanking 101.
Yes.
So we move on to the least encouraging part of the relationship era, the 35 plus, the age of disillusionment.
Oh, I mean, so now like the end of it is literally like you hit 35 and that's the downhill.
Yeah.
Like here's where it sucks.
You've gone back to that under 10 attitude of girls and crap.
Right. It's like buckle up.
Yeah.
It's not going to get any better.
Yeah.
This is just going to be terrible. It's going to suck the rest of your life. You're going to have maybe 2% of the time a few highlights. Yeah. But other than that, it's going to suck.
Yeah. I think you start thinking back in an existential fashion. You start looking back and thinking about all those times when you were 8, when you justified why girls are crap. Well, look, they can't play computer games, they're rubbish at sports, they're not funny, they're annoying, blah, blah, blah. And then you start thinking the exact same things at like age 35 plus, and you're like, why did I not listen to myself? I know why, because at one time during recess, around that same time period, I was eating paint. So I don't know if my words of wisdom should have always been taken. It's a little hard to disseminate kind of which ones were golden, I think.
I wonder, though, in so far, I've completely agreed with these age time frames, right?
Yeah.
So what if you figure this out at an earlier stage? There's got to be some people that prior to 35 hit this 35 plus range, right?
Yeah.
Or conversely, what if you figured out later? I mean, okay, let's take these one at a time, right? Because the guy that figures it out later sucks to be him, right? But the guy that figures it out early, good for him, right? He's like, hey, I've got this figured out. And then it's probably like the Jeff Bezos or, Bill Gates. It's like, we've already proved money isn't going to keep the women there because those two guys had tons of money and they couldn't keep their women happy. Yeah. I mean, they're getting divorces. Well, I think Bezos
is that
Bezos
saying stuff
already,
about the man or saying stuff about the women, though?
I think it says something about both, to be honest with you. Because I know Bezos, I'm pretty sure he's already got through his divorce. I think Gates is going through his right now. But those two guys have figured out that, that money isn't going to keep them happy.
Yeah.
And they were still trying to go through all these, poor Bill Gates. I mean, he's sitting there, he's doing everything with Microsoft. and still probably saying, well, the girls don't like playing video games like I do. And, then he finally got a girlfriend, and now all of a sudden I'm a multi-billionaire, but, you still can't be my wife.
He got a 5, got her up to a solid 7, and then,
Yeah.
And she runs off with half his money.
Yeah, and she still looks a little bit like Caitlyn Jenner. Let's be honest. I mean, they look like they could be twins.
Right.
Which is kind of sad.
Yeah.
What was Bezos's wife, Mackenzie or something like that?
I mean,
she was okay.
Mrs. Bezos.
Yeah, there you go, Mrs. Bezos.
Yeah,
we'll go with that.
All right looking, but
she was all right, but she wasn't knocking it out of the park. She was no Tulsi Gabbard.
No.
Well, nobody's Tulsi Gabbard.
Right. And I think, women at age 35, they have this thing of like, the first time I married for love, the next time I'm going to marry for money. Whereas men, they get to 35, it's just, I'm just going to marry somebody a little bit slutty with some big boobs who doesn't shout at me too much.
Yeah, but okay, so if women marry for love the first time and then money the second time, then they get a divorce. What's the third marriage? What do they marry for on the third marriage?
Attention.
Well, I think attention is
really.
What they're seeking. Well, there's no way for us to know what women want anyway. I mean,
I don't know if people get married because they're scared of being alone, because they can't trust that unless they have something official to it that somebody's going to find it too easy to leave them, or whether people just view this thing of marriage, almost regardless of who it's to, as an achievement in and of itself. It's like, I'm married, I've got a wife, I've got a family. It's a thing. You might not be proud of that thing, you might not even like that thing very much, but it's something you feel you have to be complete. It's just like if you live in a crappy house or something, you live in a house, it's still something. There's some part of the American dream you've achieved there.
Okay, yeah. I mean, you look at it and you say, I might live in a crappy house, but I'm still at least in a house.
Right.
I'm not living in a cardboard box or a tent under, I-35,
right.
Somewhere just trying to survive.
But at least you'd be in Texas.
Well, yeah.
So, being homeless in Texas is better than living in a house in some other states.
That's true. That is 100% true.
And marrying a woman who lives under the I-35 bridges.
Wait, hang on. I think you're onto something here. What about a dating site for the homeless people, where there are people that are lonely right now and they could then date homeless people?
There has been something like that. There was a social media thing.
No kidding.
Ricky Gervais came up with it on one of his stand-ups, and he said that there was this app. No, actually, it was him and Stephen Merchant. They were doing their podcast, and it was a Ricky Gervais show, or it might have been one of the XFM. And he was talking about there was this social media thing which had come out for homeless people. And, they'd be sending each other messages and stuff on their, phones. And said, but surely you've got to run out of things to talk about. It's, you're texting your friend who's sitting next to you, you've seen like pretty much 24/7 for the last month. And it's like, hey, how's it going, Stuart? He's like, full well how it's going, mate. I'm sitting here in a puddle of piss next to you. So I don't know if you can...
Yeah, but
it's not much to share.
Sure, but I think there might be an untapped resource with being able to set up some kind of homeless dating site.
Yeah, because homeless Texas women are still better looking than a lot of women in other states.
That is true. That is true.
So maybe we can export them to other states.
Yeah, you get a fire hose out and hose them off, and
hose them down.
Throw some makeup on them. Throw one of those Instagram filters.
Essentially, if we had to summarize that, we would restore their dignity by hosing them down, throwing some makeup and some clothes on, and then sending them off to a different state to marry somebody they've never met. Just to kind of get rid of the homeless.
Well, yeah, I mean, you could actually probably put some kind of investment in this, right? So you could take a homeless Texas woman and put a little bit of money behind that, clean them up, all that, and say, look, I'm going to invest like, I don't know, $5,000 into you. And then when you get married, through the app that we have, this dude's got to pay 10 grand to meet you, and you could double your money.
I see a few flaws.
Is that slavery though?
No.
Because I don't want to. I don't want to say slavery is good.
No.
Okay, so it's not slavery, but what are the other
Well,
flaws?
apparently it's good in China because nobody complains about it happening in China.
Well, I know, but we're talking about the U.S. now. So, but you said I see a few flaws. So you're saying slavery is not a flaw. Yeah. So we're good there.
Well, I do think slavery is a flaw. I don't think it is the major flaw.
Okay.
What money-making scheme that you've come up with?
Yeah. Well, what are the flaws?
Number one, it sounds like an awful lot of work to set up, which immediately means we're going to make zero progress to it whatsoever.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
So, perfect women in your time. Can you remember when you were a kid or up to the age of puberty who your ideal woman was at the time?
Cindy Crawford.
Cindy Crawford.
Yep. So I remember I thought Cindy Crawford was the quintessential perfect woman. I remember my mom's good friend. I think I've talked about her on the podcast before. Rest in peace, Aunt Norma. She worked at Mervyn's, and Cindy Crawford did this deal with Revlon. And so they had these posters of Cindy Crawford in Mervyn's for Revlon. And my Aunt Norma gave me these posters, and I had them hanging up in my room of Cindy Crawford. Then I found out that Cindy Crawford made a workout video, and I bought the workout video and never worked out to the video.
Yeah.
Just
well,
watched.
You did. But
I did. But
your heart rate did mysteriously.
Yeah, I didn't do the exact same motions that she was doing in the video, but I remember watching that video. And for years, I thought Cindy Crawford was...
Now, was she married to Richard Gere, Cindy Crawford? Who was she married to?
No, she was in Pretty Woman with Richard Gere. That's what you're thinking.
You're thinking of Julia Roberts.
Yeah, that's Julia Roberts. I don't know. Maybe she was. I don't remember.
I thought she was married to somebody famous. If I didn't hate celebrities, I could have remembered, but...
Yeah. Julia Roberts. She was another one. I used to... Her. No, I used to think she was pretty, but then I wised up, and then I got into the Latina persuasion. Right. That's why I'm married to a Hispanic woman, because
Wonder Woman, the original Wonder Woman, Linda Carter, she was my childhood fantasy.
She's a pretty lady.
Nice even now.
No, even today, she's a good-looking woman.
Yeah, I would even make an exception for her today.
Yeah, I would too. Yeah, I see that.
Yeah. Then I think. Do you remember? Did you ever used to watch Twin Peaks at all?
Mm-mm.
There's a girl called Sherilyn Fenn. She had dark hair, big boobies.
Not ringing a bell at all.
Yeah, her. I went through about 5 or 6 year period of liking her. She didn't return any of my non-existent calls either.
That's sad.
Then I went through a barren period of having a fantasy woman. I think you go through that period, and it's maybe that after college to the mid-35s. I think where you just don't, I think you lose all your hopes and dreams of having your fantasy woman.
Right.
You stop kind of dreaming and daydreaming of all these situations and stuff. Outside of sex, you just don't think of women in very many kind of like perfect meeting scenarios and all this other stuff. I mean, it's pretty much a one-track thought process for a long period of your life there, which...
Yeah.
Thanks, evolution.
Right. Quite honestly, that's kind of sad, because you have that dream set up in your head and you say, here's the perfect woman, here's who I'm going to marry, she's going to be beautiful, she's going to this, that, and the other. And I would be willing to bet a shiny nickel that 95% of men don't get that end game and say, I married that one that I wanted.
Right.
We all have our dreams, and the dreams are the dreams, and that's fine. And women have the same dreams. They want the sexy guys, they want the Brad Pitts, they want, the George Clooney's, they want all that. And that's all fine and well, but it's kind of sad when there are so many men out there that don't even get just a little bit close to what that dream is, to say, you're not the Cindy Crawford, you're not the Selma Hayek, you're not the Tulsi Gabbard, you're not the whatever, but at least you're kind of close, and some of the fame adds a little bit to the 10-point system, right? Makes them look a little prettier. But then you look at some guys and women for that matter, and when I look at them on Facebook, I'm like, dang, this sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, it really sucks.
Well, I think my relationship with Linda Carter was destined to failure, because when I first realized I liked her, for anything to have happened, she'd have ended up on the sex offenders list. And now I'd be guilty of poking a grandmother, because she's like 70 or 75 or something.
No.
She's old.
She is not that old.
She's probably not, but seems like it. Well, I mean, she was an adult when I was a kid.
Yeah,
so
but
she's got to be like...
Yeah, but then you look at somebody like Jennifer Lopez, which is like... Jennifer Lopez is
that's
52.
That's a different person, right?
What do you mean?
Well, from Linda Carter, so bringing up somebody else who's a different age isn't helping.
But my point being, Jennifer Lopez is 52 years old.
Right.
And that was the age of the women in the Golden Girls. And so when I grew up, that was what, women in their 50s were supposed to look like. And then you look at Jennifer Lopez and you're like, that's what a 52-year-old woman looks like?
Linda Carter is 70. She's born in 1951.
You are kidding me.
Yeah, she was 70 this year.
Wow.
And this was her just a few years ago at 67.
And she was in the new Wonder Woman. And you look at it, 70 years old.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good for her. Now, is Linda Carter married?
Don't know. It's another obstacle.
Yeah. You might want to figure that out. I mean, because you could be the young buck right now and say, hey, I know you're 70,
she can still fill out that Wonder Woman.
Exactly.
Outfit,
Yeah.
Martha Stewart's another strange fascination of mine.
Right.
I don't know why, really.
Well, she's pretty.
Yeah. Well, she used to be a model. Have you seen photos of her when she was younger? She's beautiful.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely gorgeous.
No. Not was beautiful,
Yeah.
still is beautiful. I think Martha Stewart's a good looking woman.
And I think she still has probably the best hairdresser in the world, because for a 70-year-old woman, her hair is like perfect in terms of color and texture.
No.
And
once again, and great personality.
Yeah.
I love that picture of her and Snoop Dogg sitting next to each other, and the meme that says, which one of these people have been to prison?
Right.
Because
I've got that signed photo of her, right? It says to my favorite wolf, like Martha Stewart.
Exactly.
Yeah. So she's been a strange one. I would, I would make do with Martha.
Well, good for you.
And I would make do with Linda Carter. I just want to put both those out there because I know the odds on both are slim, so I'm doubling my low odds too.
Well, just in case that, this podcast ends up being one of those deals where we might, end up with one of those. I will make do with Selma Hayek.
Okay.
Or Penelope Cruz.
Okay. Just
for the record.
So I have a free run at Tulsi Gabbard then once she gets divorced?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, you can have Tulsi.
Yeah.
I mean, Tulsi, gorgeous, but I'm gonna stick to the Hispanic roots. I like my Hispanics, not Jennifer Lopez. I don't want anything to do with her.
Yeah.
I mean, she's 2 rings shy of Tom Brady, and she's never won a Super Bowl.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of Jennifer Lopez.
She's been around the block a little bit.
Yeah, many blocks.
Yeah. Now I hope the whole Tulsi Gabbard thing works out, because next on my list is Elsa from Frozen.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, because she's kind of pretty, a little bit quirky.
Right.
Probably likes the temperature at the house. I like it as well.
Yeah, not only that, but I mean, here in Texas, it gets hot during the summer,
Right.
so you could use her to say, hey, cool the house down.
Yeah.
And she just points her hand or whatever she does with, that ice stuff.
Yeah.
That would be nice.
Right. And, I think that there were a few setbacks and she had a few little attitude adjustments which needed sorting out. But I think, across those 2 movies, she did a pretty good job. I think she'd be all right to hang around with.
Yeah, the only problem is that snowman deal. I don't like that snowman guy.
Yeah.
You'd have to put up with that.
Right. Yeah.
all those famous women, they always have this like guy that kind of hangs out. It's like, oh, this is my best friend, and if you're gonna love me, you've got to deal
Olaf?
with him.
Is his name Olaf or something like that?
I don't know. I just know I don't like that snowman guy.
Well, you'd have to get used to some Texas summers outside. So,
see, that's a good point.
Solved.
You move into Texas, then he won't survive, and you got it all taken care of.
Yeah, so that's what I'm down to. Melissa, Tulsi, and Elsa. If Martha and Linda are not up for it.
Yeah.
So, this isn't a Stump the Shepherd, but this is an Ask the Shepherd a question or a series of questions thing. In importance now, where you're at in your life, if you suddenly found yourself single tomorrow because of a stray asteroid, but you had a very quick morning period, so you're over it by tomorrow afternoon type of thing, where are these in level of importance in looking for a new bride as such? Number one, attractiveness.
Well, so am I supposed to rank these on like a 1 to 10?
Well, you can if you want. Just how important are they to you now compared to how they may have been at different stages of your life? So remember, Lisa's been killed by an asteroid tonight. You've had good night's sleep, some good online counseling. You're over it by tomorrow afternoon. You're filling out dating application, whatever. Because remember, there's every single street corner, pretty much, local single females are searching for you. See it all the time.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I keep getting those alerts on my phone.
They're out there.
I know they're waiting for me.
Exactly.
Okay.
So they're out there.
All right. So what's
attractiveness? How important is that to you now, as opposed to it may have been when you were in your teens, or
can I
other period?
But can I still go like 1 to 10? Can I just can I put that? Okay. Attractiveness. 10.
So that's definitely got to have the attractiveness.
100%. Yes.
What other factors would you let slip a little bit for the attractiveness to be at a maximum?
None.
None. So you're still looking for this perfect overall.
Absolutely. I mean, why not? Why not get what you want?
Right.
Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. Now
so low.
I have to be attracted to somebody. I can't deal with all of this. Oh, they've got a nice
10.
personality. They're a good mom. They're a good whatever.
Now, by the way, my 10 might not be your 10. I'm saying for me, it's got to be a 10.
Right.
What you might see as a 10 might not be what I consider a 10, and what I consider a 10 might not be what you consider a 10. But to me, that's important. So yeah, that's a 10.
So Tulsi and Elsa are still in the running there. Sense of humor. Now we know girls aren't funny, but
one.
Yes. Yeah, don't set your hopes up too high, because they're going to be dashed.
Yeah, I have taken my wife to comedy shows, and sense of humor, just don't care. I mean, I really don't care.
I'll tell you something though. Since I discovered Delta 8, which is available from our friends just down the way here at the Cloud House.
That is true. Yeah. And if you mention the podcast, you get a
10% off, 10% discount.
Yep.
Great guys who work there. They're open awesome hours, really late at night.
Oh no, not awesome hours.
Well,
they never close.
Now. Yeah, now they close.
Yeah, it's 24 hours. They're open all the time.
There's a chance they will be open if you drop by. But go in, talk to them. Said, fantastic guys. Get yourself some lovely Delta 8. But anyway, where was I going with the Delta 8 thing?
I have no clue.
Oh, yes, I do know. The sense of humor thing.
Oh,
since I discovered Delta 8, my girlfriend's actually been quite funny in some of the stuff she's said.
So it takes mind-altering chemicals to make her funny.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Well, I think just women, period. I mean, there are a few women. I mean, like one of the guests we had on a few weeks ago, May Deavy, she's a pretty funny woman.
No, May is funny.
She's a funny woman.
Yeah.
But they're few and far between. I mean, I've
true.
never seen a female comedian as such and thought she's funny. I mean, for one, they all seem to go off the same, bullet-pointed sheet, of, let's laugh about periods, childbirth, how crap men are.
Do you know who the last funny female comedian was?
No.
Joan Rivers.
See, I never saw her in her prime when she was doing her stand-up.
No,
stuff.
Joan Rivers was funny. she always was funny because she would make fun of women. She would make fun of men. It wasn't like you were saying with the typical woman stand-up comedian stuff. Joan Rivers was funny.
Yeah.
Rest in peace. She's been dead for a while, but Joan Rivers was funny.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden she decided, I'm going to sell jewelry on QVC, and kind of went south from there. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I just don't find any stand-up female comedians.
Sarah Silverman used to be funny.
I don't find her funny.
No, way back in the day she was funny. She's not funny anymore, but she started out being kind of funny, but then kind of went down the same road you're talking about, and then it's just like, I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, I think the mistake she made is other than the going political route, which, go woke, go broke type thing,
right,
is she tried to be too shocking. She hit this curve of where they suddenly allow you to say anything you wanted on cable TV, on certain channels, or show anything. And so, I guess for her to try and stand out, she wanted to be the most shocking comedian in terms of what she said. But I think, unfortunately, like a lot of women comedians, they don't realize that saying something controversial or shocking in itself is not funny. You've then got to have something about what you've just mentioned.
Agreed.
Which is funny. And I think they still, female comedians still rely on a shock value because, that word or that phrase came out of a woman's mouth. And no, it's not funny. There's got to be, if a man said it, wouldn't be funny.
Right. It should be equal.
Yeah, it should be equal.
It 100% should be equal.
Because there's plenty of unfunny men comedians. It's like men are funny and women aren't funny, because there's plenty of men comedians who, I can't watch 10 seconds of they suck so badly. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely not that. It's just that women comedians, generally speaking, I think have tried to follow too much in the footsteps of men, and also tried to make a career, again, out of being, the mouthy girl, or the, girl with a potty mouth, or and it's just not funny, at least not to men. Now there might be women who find that, because you look at comedies, movies which are designed specifically for women, or like date nights, so the man doesn't really get much of a choice in it if he wants to.
Yeah, the whole romantic comedy and all that.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the humor in those, and it doesn't matter what the movie, what the decade for the last, 30, 40 years, it's pretty much the same premise, the same jokes.
Yep.
And it's just so cringy. Even if the actresses and the actors in it are good, it's just so cringy. I agree. You can literally write the script. Someone said, okay, look, we've got a person here. He's a real estate broker. We've got this woman coming in town. She's selling a late grandmother's house. We need to make this funny. She's got one kid from a previous relationship. She's not married, so we can get some laughs out of, this guy who's, never had any kids, trying to make friends with this child. And, it's the same worn out crap. There's just nothing new.
And then, by the way, the little addition there is, and she's overweight, so now it's funny, times two, because now she's a big woman, and so now we're gonna laugh at it more because she's a big woman, right? No, it's ridiculous. I agree. All right, so
sense of humor, not really that important.
So sense of humor, that's a 1.
Yeah, if you're gonna take a hit somewhere, may as well go where you know where you got the chink in the armor there. Right, intelligence again. We don't want to lose the 4 or 5 women we still have listening to the show, but intelligence in and of itself, not relative.
I'm going to go with
intelligent for a woman. Is she intelligent for a woman?
I'm going to go with... Wow. I'm not editing that part because, we both looked at each other and said, how are we even talking about this? But I'm going to go with about a 5. I mean, 5, maybe 6. Somewhere in there. I mean, I don't want them to be dumb.
Right.
But I think 6 is probably the maximum amount they could even get on the 1 to 10 scale.
Right, yeah.
So I'm going to go... on the 1 to 10 scale, they immediately lose 4 points because they're a woman. So I'm going to go 5 to 6.
Okay. Yeah, so you really want the top lines among the...
I don't want to have to explain everything over and over and over.
Right. Yeah.
You know, because in your example right now, you know, this is the replacement. This is who I'm supposed to be with because the meteor hit and Lisa's dead. I don't want to have to sit there and try to explain.
Right.
Here's how to put the batteries
She's
in
got
the
to hit
remote
the ground
control.
running.
Yeah,
this new one.
Yeah, I do not want to have to show you the YouTube video of how to tie your shoes every morning. So I'm going to go with 5, knowing 6 is the max on the 1 to 10 scale.
Do you have anything going on this weekend? Because we could drive down to the southern border and pick ourselves up a couple of 9 out of 10s in the 18 to 22 age range before they get sex trafficked.
Yeah, don't tempt me.
Yeah.
Don't tempt me. All right.
So... intelligent. So you're going for the maximum, the 100% relative speaking, and that's a 6 out of 10.
Correct.
All right, okay.
Well, 5 to 6.
Yeah, 5 to 6.
We're not going to use decimal points
because she's going to end up.
Because now the math is going to get complicated, and now we're going to confuse everybody.
Right.
So yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Cooking and cleaning. I've put those together because they're household chores, which women should be.
All right, so I'm going to have to disagree with you here. I think those need to be separate. Okay, because I like to...
Should we stick it under a jobs for women umbrella or just...
No, because you and I both, and you do a lot of cooking, and so do I. I like to grill, I like to cook and everything, so I want to separate cooking and cleaning out.
Right.
Because, I want... the woman to be able to cook some food and it be good. But certain times, I mean, I don't want a woman to cook a steak for me. I want to cook my own steak. I want to cook the meats. I want to smoke my own meats on my smoker, all that stuff. So the cooking part is not as important. Now, the cleaning part, very important. Because I don't want to pick anything up. I want somebody to come behind me and take care of all that stuff. If I'm going to be taking care of the house as far as paying the bills and bringing the money in and all that. So the cleaning part, we're going to go with 8 to 9. Cooking part, if the intelligence is at that 5 to 6 range, I can teach her how to cook the side dishes and prepare the salad and all that. So not that important.
Right. Yeah. And also want to mention that self-cleaning is also very important. It didn't make the list, but good personal hygiene is also high up.
No.
That's a given. That's a given.
But when you talk about cleaning, I'm thinking cleaning the house and all that, not personal hygiene.
Well, I didn't want some female listening to this thinking she checked all of these boxes, but then, doesn't wash herself down there more than a couple of times a month.
No, we don't want that.
To work out for us.
Not at all.
Yeah. So, cooking and cleaning, I think... I mean, again, if I married Martha Stewart, there'd be a few times I'd want to impress her and cook a dish just for her to pat me on the head and say, good boy, now go and play with this bag of gold.
I don't think you could ever do that with Martha Stewart, though.
That I could never impress her.
Not with cooking.
I think I could.
I don't think you could. It's Martha Stewart.
Yeah.
How are you going to impress Martha Stewart with cooking?
I don't know. There might have to be some more Delta 8 involved.
Maybe
lower defenses.
Well, but on the woman's side, maybe it depends on how you're dressed while you're cooking.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe if you're, just wearing an apron in the kitchen and you're dancing around as you do it, maybe that impresses Martha.
I wonder what I get, though, if I cook a good meal for her.
I don't think it'd ever happen, but if it did, I think you'd be happy.
Well, maybe with her, then I just let it go and just let her do all the cooking.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're going to have Martha Stewart, why would you want to cook?
Right.
I mean, you literally have Martha Stewart. Why would you ever want to cook?
I think I'm going to turn 100% for home decor choices over to her as well.
Absolutely.
Because she's got a whole magazine which covers all of it.
Exactly.
She's got to know more than I do.
Yeah, why would you even bother yourself with that?
She's got a lot of money and we can pay for some people to clean.
Yeah, probably the same people that I would be interested in dating.
Yeah, we could probably get these same couple of girls we were going to get from the border at the weekend and put those to use.
See? Killing 2 birds with 1 stone. And then I can live in the guest house with the help.
Yeah.
All right.
Which ironically was the title of the newspaper ad article written about when your wife and daughter gets hit by the meteor.
See, there we go.
Two birds with one stone.
There we go.
One of the few times, when
bring
an aspiring journalist could have had the chance to use this headline he's been waiting for.
Yep.
Going tomorrow, he can retire. I've been waiting to use that. Killing two birds with one stone.
I love it.
Local man sadly loses wife and child, but I'm going to run with the killing two birds with one stone headline.
I love it.
So, easy going.
I'm going to have to put that one at like 9 seems strong, somewhere between 8 and a 9. I mean, I need some checks every once in a while.
Yeah.
I need myself checked a few times because maybe I need to be put in check. So I'm going to go with an 8 on that because I know I get a little bit wound up and wild and sometimes I need to get calmed down. So I'm going to go with an 8 on that one.
Yeah, I'd go with an 8 or a 9 because a 10 would be too much. I think I'd get away with too much stuff.
Exactly.
And also try and get away with more stuff, which would keep increasing every month.
Exactly.
And
if it's too easygoing, then I'm like, oh, I got away with that. Now I'm going to try this.
Yeah.
So I need some kind of...
Do need to be called out.
I need a check and balance.
Stuff. Yeah.
It's just like when we created this country, we had a check and balance system put in. I need that same check and balance system.
I think it's like the shoplifting situation at the moment in California, like in LA. I think as long as what you steal isn't worth more than $200 or like $199, then the police won't charge you with any type of shoplifting or theft thing. So you just got to make sure you steal stuff as many times as you want, apparently, but for under $200. Like, so you can do $200 from this store, from this store, from this store. Buy 2 cups of coffee from Starbucks. Maybe go a little bit over your budget there.
Right,
but. Yes, I mean, I think it's very similar to that. I think if I was allowed to get away with anything and everything, the chances of me trying to get away with anything and everything is pretty high.
Yeah.
So maybe an 8 is probably right.
Yeah, I think 8 is that safe number on this.
But you have to kind of get that safe line which stops them from formulating and trying to act upon their own opinions, because this is one of the things which the whole men's movement since the 50s, when women took more of an independent and feminist type role, this is one of the biggest complaints among gatherings of both men and women, that women were supposed to be seen and not heard, look pretty, right. Respond if being addressed. But there was a huge complaint that in the 60s and 70s among the gentlemen in England that women were starting to offer in far too many of their own opinions into matters and commenting things that they are not well versed in, and making themselves look foolish in the process.
Gotcha.
So,
yeah,
I mean,
we got to be careful with that.
If you're thinking something, keep it to yourself.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
There was a lot of study which went into that. Men, what don't you like about this? So, I don't want to give an opinion on something.
Right. Yeah.
Holds true today as it did 50 years ago.
Absolutely.
Just keep it to yourself.
Yep. Makes total sense.
Yeah. This last one, I suppose, approach the sexual liberation era with non-condemnation, non-judgment, allowing people to be free to express themselves, find different people they may or may not want to be with. And so I had to come up, with a category which, not only respected free choice, my body, my choice, but also, allowed people who wanted to stick to that. There's just one person for me only type approach. So I called this section Not a Whore.
Not a whore.
Yeah. How important is that she's not a whore?
Well, I would have to go with a twofold answer on this one, because I would have to say, depending on what side of the bedroom door we're in,
right?
Not a whore on the outside of the bedroom door. Yeah. That's like a 10 plus.
Yeah.
Can't do that.
Yeah.
On the inside of the bedroom, that's like a -4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my good
friends. That active.
Yeah. One of my good friends actually made a incredible error because he based his decision-making process on a hip-hop song he heard, and he unfortunately ended up with a lady in the bed and a whore in the street. So wasn't happy.
Yeah, no, that sounds terribly bad. Well, with all that said, thanks for tuning in to this episode of The Wolf and the Shepherd. We certainly appreciate all y'all's support, and we will catch you on the next one.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Wolf and the Shepherd podcast. If you like what you just heard, we hope you'll pass along our web address, thewolfandtheshepherd.com, to your friends and colleagues. And please leave us a positive review on iTunes when you get a chance. Check us out on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for additional content. Join us next time for another episode of The Wolf and the Shepherd.